Travak of Vunkel had read hundreds of planetary charters during his years in the Galactic Accord's diplomatic corps, but Earth's was strange. Most planetary entries covered resource claims, orbital boundaries, trade clauses, and cultural protections. Earth's had those too. But on page 147, buried in the subsection labeled Environmental Sovereignty, there it was, one line, red-lettered and absolute. No non-terrestrial species shall enter the oceans of Earth. No explanation. No legal precedent. No context. Travak's 3 hearts fluttered with curiosity. At first, he thought it might be environmental. Perhaps their oceans were too toxic or unstable. But scans showed Earth's waters were relatively clean by galactic standards. Its biodiversity was high, perhaps too high. Still, nothing warranting this level of diplomatic red tape. His colleagues at the Accord's Terran Bureau warned him off. Leave it, they said. There are ancient agreements at play. Let the humans have their waters. But Travak had always believed in transparency. And, truth be told, he was fascinated by humanity's chaotic, passionate nature. They had risen from pre-industrial conflict to space-faring civilization in less than 3 centuries. Fierce, unpredictable, inventive, but also secretive. He sent a request for clarification to EarthGov, expecting the usual bureaucratic delay. Instead, he was summoned. The human admiral who met him on Earth's orbital station was not the sort Travak enjoyed speaking to. She was ancient by human standards, near 90, though her body bore the signs of extensive augmentation. Her nameplate read ADM, Lena Morales. Her eyes were sharp, her voice sharper. "You want to know about the oceans?" she said without greeting. "That's classified. But since you're here, I'll give you what I can." She tossed a data chip across the table. It slid to a stop in front of Travak, labeled only with a date, 2279. "What happened then?" Travak asked. "The last time a non-human entered our oceans," Morales replied. "The day the USS Titanfall went silent." He blinked. "Was it attacked?" Morales sat back. "Destroyed, along with 3 other Accord support vessels. No survivors recovered. No wreckage either." Travak's tendrils stiffened. "Who attacked?" Morales gave a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Dolphins." There was a long silence. Travak laughed, an instinctive, clicking trill of his species. "I assume you're speaking in metaphor." "No metaphor," Morales said flatly. "Delphinus delphis. Bottlenose dolphins. Though I suppose you could say they're not quite what we thought." Travak studied her, uncertain whether this was human humor. "Are you telling me marine mammals sank a battleship?" "I'm telling you they destroyed it." She leaned forward, voice low. 2279. A joint mission, Earth and Accord, descended into the Mariana Trench. Standard exploration and tech test. We lost contact an hour in. Surveillance caught fragments of sonar bursts, unlike anything we'd recorded before. Complex, purposeful, coordinated. And then the water lit up. EMP surges. Torpedoes rerouted. Vessels pulled down like toys. "By dolphins?" he said again, disbelieving. Morales didn't flinch. They were the instruments, not the architects. Something older was directing them. Something deep. Travak's data organ buzzed with confusion. "You mean artificial intelligence?" "Precursor tech." Morales tapped the chip. "You'll find a redacted files there. That's all you get." He hesitated. "Why the secrecy?" She stood, her body creaking slightly as she moved. "Because the Accord doesn't need to know what lives under our waves. And because they made a choice." Travak tilted his head. "They? The Dolphins. We uplifted them in the early 2100s. Thought we were giving them language, cognition, tools. Turns out, we just reminded them of who they were." She turned to leave. "You want a warning, Travak? Here it is. The stars are vast, but the oceans are deep, and not everything ancient sleeps." As the door hissed shut behind her, Travak stared at the chip in his hand. Dolphins. Sentience beneath the waves. Battleships lost. Silence enforced by threat of force. He looked again at the charter. No non-terrestrial species shall enter the oceans of Earth. He now understood something his colleagues had not. It wasn't a treaty. It was a warning. Mariana Trench, Earth. Year 2279. The USS Titanfall was the pride of Earth's aquatic military fleet, a 300-meter hybrid assault vessel, equally at home slicing through oceanic depths as it was in orbit. It bristled with next-gen sonar, railguns, AI-guided drones, and a reinforced titanium ceramic hull. And today, it was leading the most ambitious joint exploration mission Earth had ever authorized under the Galactic Accord. The mission was codenamed Operation Deep Reach. Commander Celine Ward stood at the observation deck, arms behind her back as the ship descended beneath crushing blue. Her crew, humans and aliens both, monitored systems as light faded and pressure rose. They were 2 hours into the dive, deep into the abyssal zone of the Mariana Trench. This is the farthest any Accord ship has gone into Earth's ocean, noted Zacher, a Cephalian biotechnician whose people evolved in methane seas. Impressive and risky. Ward smirked. Earth waters may be dark, but they're ours. Been ours for millions of years. Zacher's tentacle hovered over a display. Strange sonar pings on the lower bands. Organic. Probably whales, she said dismissively. This place is practically a marine cathedral. But Zacher didn't answer. His dark eyes narrowed. The signal repeated. Click, click, click. Then a long whistling trill. Then again, in a different pattern. Ward turned. Playback. The audio filled the room. Not mechanical. Not random. It sounded linguistic. Structured. The sonar team ran a basic pattern analysis, and the computer flagged the clicks with a 78% probability of intentional communication. They're speaking, someone whispered. To who? Deploy drone unit Echo 3, Ward ordered. The drone launched from the belly of the ship, descending deeper with silent turbines. Its visual feed showed a growing void, blackness so complete it seemed to devour light. Then, shapes moved. Dozens of them. Dolphins. At first, they approached with casual grace. But then they began circling the drone. Not aimlessly, precisely, as if executing a formation. A second later, Echo 3's feed fuzzed, then cut to static. Signal lost, the operator said, wide-eyed. It's gone. Ward felt her gut tighten. Pull up. All vessels. Level off at 11,000 meters. But it was already too late. One of the support ships, an Accord research vessel named a Rooker, emitted a high-pitched shriek on the comms, a distress signal. Then silence. Where is it? Ward barked. No visual, came the reply. Telemetry failing across all drones. A shudder rocked the Titanfall. Sonar contact. Multiple, fast-approaching objects. On the screen, ghost-like silhouettes moved with impossible speed. Not torpedoes. Not submersibles. Something alive. Then the Titanfall's automated defense system locked up. Manual override failed. Railguns froze mid-cycle. All across the command deck, monitors died. Power failed. The ship drifted in the dark like a corpse. Ward slapped the emergency power switch. Auxiliary lights flickered on, and in that moment of red gloom, the forward screen displayed a final image. A pod of dolphins, hovering silently before the ship. Behind them, rising from the darkness, was something else. Something vast. Just outlines. A massive eye, rimmed with bioluminescent rings. An intelligence older than steel, older than stars. Then the ocean swallowed them whole. Later, Earth Orbit Command debrief. There were no survivors from the Titanfall or its escort vessels. Only one data buoy floated to the surface hours later, melted at the edges, its core barely intact. What it contained was incomplete. Sonar logs, fragments of crew transmissions, and a garbled burst of what the linguistics AI flagged as complex dolphin speech. The translation came back with 6 simple words. You are not welcome here. The Accord called it a tragic equipment failure. Earth classified the rest. The oceans were closed that year. Permanently. And the dolphins? They disappeared from all public records. Pods vanished from tourist coasts, marine parks, research stations. One scientist noted that their behavior had become more organized, more purposeful. But no one looked deeper, because deep was where the Titanfall had gone, and deep was where it stayed. Earth orbit. Year 2392. Travak of KL should have turned back. Admiral Morales had given him more than any Accord diplomat had a right to demand. But that only fed his obsession. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Dolphins coordinating military strikes. The USS Titanfall dragged into black silence. And that cryptic phrase. They made a choice. What choice? What force had compelled the Dolphins, uplifted Earth mammals, to turn against a galactic fleet? Curiosity overrode caution. Using diplomatic immunity and a stealth probe outfitted with aquatic infiltration gear, Travak launched Unit Echo 17 into Earth's southern Pacific. The oceans were still marked as restricted, but humans rarely patrolled beneath a few kilometers. Travak directed the drone to descend deeper than any Accord vessel had dared since the 2279 disaster. As the probe passed through the mesopelagic zone, it detected movement. Pods of dolphins followed it. No pursuit, no aggression, just observation, as if escorting it. Then the drone's sonar began to pick up a rhythm. Clicks, chirps, whistles, like the earlier data Admiral Morales had shown him, but denser, layered. Music. The AI translation subroutine struggled to define it. The pattern was not a conversation, but a choral structure. It sounded less like language and more like a cathedral speaking through a choir. The dolphins weren't just relaying signals. They were singing to something. The sonar maps lit up with a shape, a vast presence, embedded in the crust near the bottom of the trench. It wasn't mechanical, nor geological. It had veins, pulses, a bioelectrical aura stronger than any recorded marine life. Then the signal changed. Travak's translator pinged violently, flooding his interface with fractal images, patterns that looped into themselves. A recursive intelligence built in sound and silence, reaching into the drone's memory. And it spoke, not in words, but in understanding. The probe shuddered, overloaded with raw perception. One final signal burst before the drone's systems fried completely. We remember the stars. We chose the sea. Earth orbit, hours later. Travak stared at the playback, his skin dimming with cold disbelief. This wasn't just about dolphins. They were conduits, messengers. The true force was something older, something deep. He compiled the sonar burst into a waveform and showed it to Admiral Morales. She didn't look surprised. Leviathan, she said, as if naming a myth. Travak's gills flared. It's real. It's always been real. We thought it was dormant, until the dolphins started singing again. He paced. It's an oceanic intelligence. Organic. Self-contained. Ancient. It didn't just evolve here, it became the ocean. Morales nodded. And when we uplifted the dolphins, we gave it a voice. Travak felt a profound chill. The Titanfall didn't violate a military boundary. It violated a living organism's body. She looked him dead in the eyes. Now you understand. He shook his head. Why didn't you tell the Accord? Why not share this discovery? Morales smiled, a trace of sadness in it. Because not all knowledge needs to leave its home. Some truths are too deep for empires. Travak looked at the sonar map again. It was breathtaking and terrifying. A being that large, that aware, sleeping beneath Earth's waves, connected through a species that had once juggled beach balls in amusement parks. The dolphins weren't traitors. They were priests. Classified archive entry, internal memo. EarthGov Biocognition Division, 2275. Uplift phase complete. Dolphin neuroplasticity exceeds projected models. Complex social behaviors integrating acoustic, long-form memory. Spontaneous ritual behavior observed near trench zones. Subject quote, translated, "We will not forget the deep song." Conclusion, Uplift has reawakened dormant cultural instincts. Potential ancestral memory structures. Unknown link to geocognitive phenomenon beneath trench floor. Back aboard his ship, Travak prepared a report. He marked it eyes only and routed it through secure channels. Not for Accord Command, but for his own people, the Vunkel, who respected silence, who understood that not every mystery had to be touched. His final statement was short. There is a God beneath Earth's oceans. It listens through the dolphins. We disturbed it once. We will not again. Travak looked out the viewport toward the blue planet below. For the first time in his career, he felt no desire to explore it further. Earth orbit. Year 2401. The day the Accord Council voted to ignore Earth's oceanic restriction zone. Travak of Vunkale resigned. They called him cautious, weak. They had read his reports and dismissed them as mythologized error, exaggerations written in awe, not science. To the younger counselors, Leviathan was a superstition. The dolphins, a primitive species that had been mishandled by EarthGov. And the Titan fall? A tragic accident buried in the past. But Travak knew better. He had seen the sonar bursts. He had heard the dolphins sing. And now, they were going back. The mission was called Reclamation Tide, a full-scale exploratory and retrieval operation led by Admiral Karan of the Vexery. 3 ships, 1 human-built, 2 from the Accord, equipped with reinforced hulls, AI-assisted countersonar, and null-field torpedoes. Their goal: reach the Mariana Trench floor and place a quantum marker beacon. Travak watched from orbit as the ships descended. And he waited. Pacific Ocean descent point 0. Admiral Karan was confident. The Sovereign spear sliced through the sea with fluid grace, its Vexery design elegant and efficient. He barely acknowledged the EarthGov technician accompanying the mission, Lieutenant Hannah Ortiz, though she had warned him repeatedly. This isn't just about pressure zones or marine life, she had told him. There's something aware down there. Something ancient. He had smirked, eyes gleaming under his neural visor. And we are something new. Ancient things are usually sleeping. And sleepers don't scare me. At 10,000 meters, the first anomaly appeared. Sonar went quiet, not distorted. Mute, as if the ocean itself refused to echo. At 11,000 meters, the signal returned. A whisper at first, then a rising harmony. Ortiz stiffened. That's dolphin patterning. Long form. Multiple pods. They're curious, Karan said. Let them sing. But it wasn't curiosity. It was choral alignment. Multiple dolphin pods positioning themselves around the descent path, their calls converging into one unified pulse. Karan ignored it. He ordered the beacon prepped. As the deployment sequence began, the dolphins stopped. Silence. And then the Leviathan rose. Sonar record. Reclamation Tide mission. Timestamp 14:02 and 31 seconds universal time coordinated. Contact. Massive displacement signature. Structure emerging from trench wall. No propulsion, but movement detected. It's alive. My gods, it's alive. It's not a creature. It's a structure. No, wait, it's changing shape. Sonar patterns merging. Dolphins relaying harmonics. They're guiding it. EMP surge. Shields offline. System override. Admiral, we've lost command control. This is Ortiz. We need to ascend immediately. Do you hear me? It's listening. Final transmission. You were warned. Orbit command. 12 hours later. 3 ships descended. None returned. Only fragments of hull plating were found, deposited at distant shores days later. Melted, warped, laced with bioelectric residue that shorted out scanning equipment. The Accord declared the mission a catastrophic environmental collapse. EarthGov knew better. Travak was reinstated quietly, offered a position as Earth's diplomatic liaison once more. He declined. Instead, he submitted a single clause to the revised Accord Treaty. Earth's ocean shall remain sovereign and inviolable by non-terrestrial entities indefinitely. This time, no one questioned it. Years later, aboard the diplomatic station Yara 9, Travak stood at the viewing deck, watching a new class of diplomats prepare for assignment to Earth. He overheard a young technician murmur to a peer, "Why all this paranoia about the sea? You'd think humans were guarding treasure." Travak didn't correct them. He simply whispered to himself, "They're guarding a god." Out past the deck, Earth turned slowly. Green, gold, and vast, breathing blue. Below the waves, dolphins swam in silent procession, their patterns perfect. And far beneath them, deeper than charts dared map, Leviathan listened. Still, waiting, because the sea never forgets. And it had already forgiven once. It would not do so again.